Welcome to Starfish Astrology, video for Virgo Sun, Cancer Moon. Virgo Sun is living through analyzing. Cancer Moon is security through nurturing. The Moon is in its dignity in Cancer. It's its home sign. And the Sun is probably not as well expressed through Virgo. The Sun is a masculine luminary. Virgo is a feminine sign, and it is Earth. But the two tend to go together well because it's Earth and water. It's a sextile, if within 9 degrees. Either way, they're complementary elements. So let's get started on what the Sun represents. The Sun is the ego, the vitality, one's spirit, their spunkiness, how they feel empowered or disempowered, and how they take or give power from or to others. So a Virgo's vitality is very much based on their mental state. Their body reacts more than most people to excess worry, self-criticism, and emotional unrest. Somebody with the Sun in the 6th house could also experience similar pitfalls. Same thing with Mars in the 6th house. So usually the body's reactions take place more in the digestive system. So that is something to be aware of when they, get nervous or something is going on around them that they cannot analyze or put into neat little compartments or figure out how to solve. Instead of just letting go and allowing events to take place, the tendency is to chew on the problem over and over and over again. The Virgo ego is based off service, so they enjoy being part of something greater. They have very high standards for themselves, and when they meet those standards, they feel accomplished. This is, true for meeting other people's high standards as well. A Virgo's will is strong in terms of duty. They like having a job and or tasks to do, and enjoy making a process more streamlined and efficient. A Virgo feels empowered when he is recognized for his hard work and attention to detail, and when others can count on him for guidance, either at the workplace or when something needs to be done at home. And from an intrinsic point of view, they enjoy checking things off of their to-do lists, both big and small. Virgos generally feel disempowered when they are glossed over for what they feel are well-earned promotions, or they're not seen as somebody that can take on additional responsibility. Anytime they're viewed as being incompetent, both at work and at home. And then when they can't meet their own ridiculously high standards, which is pretty much their own fault for setting standards that are too high. A Virgo takes power from others by criticizing them frequently and or harshly, by micromanaging and being overly concerned by petty details and never really letting anyone close to their expectations and criteria as a friend or a partner. Virgos will empower others by entrusting them to help out and to perform tasks, even if they know they might not be done to their exacting standards, and by being of service without expecting anything in return, allowing others the opportunity to figure things out, giving as little guidance as possible. And so that's when the Virgo Sun, kind of grows up a little bit and realizes that micromanaging people to death and making everybody do things their exact way isn't going to be the best way for everybody else around them. And also, people tend to learn better when they are allowed to make mistakes and fix them. So moving on to Cancer Moon. A Cancer Moon's emotions are felt quite deeply, and their emotional antennae are almost constantly on high alert. Their intuition is quite visceral. They are particularly heightened to protecting themselves and family from being attacked or from experiencing any instability. The Cancer Moon feels at home when he or she lives in a comfortable environment and even enjoys a bit of clutter, as this allows the home to feel more lived in. Emotionally, they feel safe when there is little to no flux with their partners and friends. They don't do well with drama, at least if we individualize we take the Cancer moon and we pinpoint that. I'm not going to speak for Leos with Cancer moon or, other aspects, but in general, when it comes to their emotional attachments, they would rather not have to guess as to whether things are going well or not. And because the Cancer is overly sensitive, they will often pick up things that aren't there. And so there's a tendency, when they don't trust their intuition so much, is to often assume that somebody's expressing something to them in the most detrimental or most hurtful way possible, when there really couldn't be any further from that person's intention. So the Cancer moon does express emotions in somewhat unpredictable ways. Initially, less mature lunar crabs will lash out with one or both claws and brood for hours or even days when they perceive that they've been, hurt or betrayed. There is an overall nurturing quality to a Cancer moon, and they will express themselves in the way that mirrors their mother or mother figure when they were younger. They have a pretty long memory for emotional pain and joy, and they'll interpret emotions somewhat personally at times, unable to separate the other person's intention from what they perceived was in the tone of voice or the words that were chosen. So their visceral knee-jerk reactions can be kind of cruel, and they are capable of pushing buttons even when they don't know. And that's part of what a lot of water signs can do, is they can seep into someone else's emotional triggers. And the dangerous part is they don't even really know that they're doing it or why. They will often mention things that happened years ago, long after the family member, friend, or partner has forgotten, and sometimes they'll try to use them or hang them over their head. However, once Cancer moon learns how to find space between that original emotional stimulus and the response that they have, they can learn to walk away or let the feelings calm down before they express themselves, and they generally need some time to manage their highly sensitive nature. So if they ask for space, if anyone asks for space, you should respect it. But now you know why. If your Cancer moon friend or partner asks for space, it's because they're looking for a more correct and rational response to something that's kind of triggering them. So when we put these two placements together, we get a person who is prone to holding grudges at their worst and emotionally intelligent at their best. The former is adept at using past hurts against others to make excuses for being insensitive. The latter uses these experiences to understand that people who lash out with anger are usually in some kind of pain, and in turn, they understand that they don't want to play that role in return to that person's anger. And so when they're around others, they can be highly attuned to making people feel comfortable. In this case, especially in the workplace, because the Virgo personality tends to excel in the workplace, unless there's other planets that are sort of pulling them in different directions, right? But they can offer their knowledge and expertise, which they love to do. Their ability to push buttons also means that they can push the right one. So if they're in a position of power and they're sensitive to any misuses of power they experienced in their past, they will often work to be sure that they don't inflict those same injustices to others. Overall, the Virgo Sun Cancer Moon combo is one who must learn to deal with their overall sensitive nature, both in terms of how they critique themselves and how they perceive other people's critiques. So if they truly enjoy giving to others, and often do so with no expectation in return, but they might have a hard time receiving help and affection and advice. So once they learn to accept their own mistakes and flaws, even the ones in their own self-inflicted standards, their mental and physical state will be in better equilibrium, and the relationships will be much more fulfilling. So to analyze less, let the small things go, and express and let go of their feelings will be a key factor in their personal evolution. So if these two luminaries are within 9 degrees, this creates a sextile, which is a pretty easy aspect, and it mainly means that expressions of the will and emotion in this case will be very much on par with one another. But even if the two planets are pretty far away, they're still complementary with one another, and they generally will come across as fairly even-keeled. Again, we're just taking these two things out of the charts. We don't know what else is going on. So the differences between the two is, the Virgo Sun has a desire for like order and neatness, and the Cancer Moon, kind of feels at home in a little bit of clutter and doesn't get too worried about that. The Virgo prefers to streamline their possessions, get rid of what they don't need, and the Cancer Moon can be a bit of a hoarder. And you can tell that if a Cancer Moon is feeling emotionally lacking or unfulfilled because they will be hoarding a lot of items, or everything has sentimental value to them in some way. The Virgo wants to purify themselves and strives for perfection, and Cancer's highly emotional input system doesn't process perfect very well. The Cancer is prone to sort of messier expressions of feelings, which isn't necessarily bad. There's nothing wrong with a good messy cry, or if you have to let out some anger. They might do irrational things when they're overly stressed, and Virgo tends to look down on irrational displays, and in this case themselves, when they get carried away. So the tendency might be to criticize themselves for having emotions. Oh, dog forbid we have emotions. And so this is a really this would be a good lesson where the Virgo can be like, just let go their emotions. The whole etymology of the word is mover, moving out, move the emotions out. So the Virgo really does have to allow themselves to be messy in that way, because what really happens is that striving for purity becomes really muddy and just very sort of disjointed, because now all the emotions that they want to express have all sort of collided into one another. And where does it go, and how does it get expressed when there's so much? So Cancer also does like to hide in its shell when things are getting tough, and they do need a lot of time to themselves. But Virgo will often, just tell themselves, no, just suck it up and go to work, or go do this, or go do that, when they really need to recognize that go is not always going to give them time to heal from the large amounts of input that the sensory feedback is high for Cancer, and Virgo too. But both of them are shrewd with money. Virgo knows there's a logic, and they can understand the concept of a budget, and Cancer, because it instinctively knows how to make things grow, and because money can also equal security for the home. In that vein, Cancer is the sign you go to when you want to plant a seed and watch it be nurtured to start its growth, and Virgo is the person you go to in order to streamline and clean it up and learn how to fit this, whatever it is that you're building, into the outside world, because it's a mutable sign, so it knows how to adapt. Both enjoy being of service to others and are very devoted to family and friends. Both take their duties seriously. One takes work and task-related duties seriously, and the other loyalty to anyone that counts on them. And both have an affinity for animals, might even choose to work with them, and they're closely connected to nature, the cycles and of the earth, of the moon, of everything, as particularly with a Cancer moon for sure. And so in closing, we talked a little bit about the mother and mother figure with the moon, which is always important to touch on. Cancer moon and sun will always have a strong connection to mom, for better or for worse. So if mom was there, or if mom wasn't around, that's going to be a really big underlying theme in how they organize themselves from an emotional security standpoint. If mom was critical and carping, the subject might take it very hard and attract women in their lives. That also might be the same way. They might have to learn how to grow out of that type of relationship. If mom was nurturing and even-keeled, then their tendency might be to feel more comfortable around women in general, or even to put them on a little pedestal. If mom wasn't around, the absence, can haunt them for a long time until they learn how to come to terms with that. And whoever might have taken the place of the mother as the mother figure should be looked at in terms of how they related, to get an idea of, how this person deals with their emotions, and also what triggers them, So the Cancer Sun Moon, more than most, will often model their expectations of women in their lives based off of their relationships with women when they were younger. It can be more ingrained than other signs, similar to how if this was like a Capricorn or a Saturn thing, then father would be a bigger influence. So, if mom was abusive or not present, there could be a strong instinct that attracts the lunar Cancers and the solar Cancers to have a deep instinctual appreciation and respect for women, even if they didn't have the greatest relationship. How this manifests, though, is up to other parts of the chart. So that's the quick and dirty on that. Sun in Virgo and Moon in Cancer. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you have questions, you know what to do. You've got stuff. You got a little box under there that you can write in some questions. The other thing, forgot to mention, other thing about Virgo, Sun, Cancer, Moon too, is the ability to sort of hone in on what's going on around them. Now, we talked about having emotional feelers, so we've got to backtrack a little bit here. But there's a particularly good quality that exists, especially as they evolve, as they become older, where they can look at a situation and assess it quite accurately and learn how to weave their instincts into the situation. For instance, in an entire workplace, let's say they have multiple people that they work with or that work for them or with them. They have the ability to sort of size up everyone and know where everybody's role is within the company or the department. And then if they're in tune lunarly with the Cancerian nature that they possess, they also understand how to motivate everybody around them. They may not always want to be the leader. Virgo and Cancer, Virgo might want to be, maybe, if they know that they can get the job done better and they know that they're the most qualified, but neither of them really have a strong desire for leadership most of the time. I mean, we could have, one or both of these luminaries in the 10th house, or even the first house could give them a stronger desire for that. But they're very good at being able to somehow manage to find themselves in charge, or to have a good amount of control without being the one in charge, and can be quite adept at convincing the people that are, the top dog or in charge, that their very, very good ideas that they're offering the boss was the boss's idea. Because you know how it is sometimes when you work for people that have ego issues and they don't want to do anything that somebody else, especially an underling, might suggest, because it would hurt their tiny little ego. So this combination here can really get a good bead on what's going on, and it might even be that behind the scenes person that's actually running the show in certain aspects. Even at home, they could be the person that is clearly running the show but is letting the other person think that they're in charge, or is allowing the other person to take charge in certain areas, just so they can feel fulfilled or feel better. And when dealing with children, it's the same thing, especially if they have more than one. They understand, where each child's strengths and weaknesses are, just like they would for their coworkers, and know exactly how to utilize everyone and make everybody feel really important and useful. Now, this isn't going to happen for the less evolved Virgo, because they'll just look around at everyone and criticize the crap out of them and assume that nobody knows what they're doing or has any capabilities, because they clearly could do everybody's job with both hands tied behind their back. So there's got to be that middle ground where they can access those instincts and those desire to nurture people. Whether it's at work or it's at home, they're adept at both. So that's a really good talent to have, and something to think about cultivating if you have one or both of these luminaries in the signs. All right, now I'm really done. I'm totally done for sure here. I hope to see you again soon. I don't know what the next combo will be, but you can make a request and then I will do yours next. And I will tag you and you will have your very own video. Have a good night. Thanks for watching.